Consuming. Today my mission is to help you shift your mindset a little bit. Shift your mindset a little bit to become a creator of your own life and not distract yourself with consuming things that are not helping you at all. And so I have a couple of questions that I asked myself that made me a creator, and maybe you can ask them yourself as well. So if you want to lose weight, or you want to build a business, or you want to save more money, or maybe you want to have more friends or things like that, then I hopefully can inspire you to start creating your life and start creating these situations and things that you actually want. And here's how. The first thing that I came to realize, and that is the secret of life, and it is you become what you think about. That for me was the most crazy realization of my life because we think all the time. We have thousands and thousands of thoughts every day, and it's funny how what we think is what we actually start doing. We think about the things that we consume. So we get input from our outside world, and that's what we think about. What we think about creates our actions, and what we do, our actions create our reality. And so that was a crazy realization for me. When I lived in South America a couple years, I was a little bit depressed for a while, and I couldn't get out of this negative rut. And what I started doing was I started listening to Brian Tracy and motivational videos, and I only started consuming positive things. And it's crazy to me still how that is the only thing that got me out of this rut. And I started doing things, and I got motivated to start creating and to do what feels valuable to me. And since what we consume is what we think about, and that creates our reality, I asked myself, what am I consuming? And maybe you can ask that yourself. What are you actually consuming? Who are you following on Instagram? Who are you watching on YouTube? Are you watching TV all the time and negative news and constantly thinking about negative things? And how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel jealous? Does it make you feel motivated to achieve your own goals, to live a life of freedom? And I think if we only stopped for a second and quickly thought about what we're actually consuming and becoming aware of that, I think we could actually change our lives. And honestly, that's what I did. But there's one little thing that we have to do before we start creating new plans. So lots of people, and myself included, we live in the past. What happened last year? What happened 5 years ago? What happened yesterday? What happened last weekend? It's not important. It's not relevant to the future that you want to create. And so letting go of the past is the key element of creating your own life and your own future. And so there's this philosophy from Alex Hormozi, and he talks about the past does not exist. He says it's gone. It's not anywhere. You cannot recreate it. You cannot go back to those moments. You cannot change anything about the past. But what we can change is the future. And so for me, it was such an important shift to let go of the past, to stop thinking about the past and really discipline myself and remind myself constantly to think about the future and what I want out of life and where I want to go. And is the life that I'm living right now, is that how I want to live? From there, you can evaluate what you want in the future, and then you can basically start creating that. So another way to do that is to just slow down, stop scrolling, sit down, maybe meditate, or, put on a candle, I don't know. But really just slow down your mind, turn off the TV, turn off the music, the podcast, everything off. And then it's just you. That was one epiphany that I had a couple months ago, where I was like, wow, if you turn off the world, we're all the same, and we're all very lonely if it's just us. And that has been, to me, this crazy point where I was like, there's no difference between any of us if we're by ourselves, because we're in our minds and we can influence and create what we think about. And so really slowing down, meditating, or, just turning off the world for a moment and thinking about what do I value is honestly such a good exercise to start creating your own life. And so maybe you want to take out a pen and a paper and think about what's really important to me. Look at your life. I looked at my life and I was like, what's actually really important to me? And for me, at this point in my life, it's freedom. And I want to create a life of freedom. Maybe for you, it's relationships. For my friend, it's losing weight. And so she started to be completely focused on what's important to her, and she's already seeing progress. And so for me, it's the same. I decided I want to have a life of freedom, and now what do I have to do to get there? And I started saving money, and now I have money set aside that helps me to survive, covers my fixed costs for a couple months, and I don't have to worry. It's a bit more chill, you know, life's a bit more chill now. And so sitting down in silence, writing down what you value and what is important to you. And then the next thing will be to set goals. We want to have tangible goals, maybe even with the time frame. So for me, I put myself a goal for this entire year to save a certain amount of money. And now I can start creating that. If you want to have better relationships, you can start creating situations where you meet people. You can go to events. You can go to girls' meetups or whatever. That's also a thing that I'm doing because it's important to me to have relationships that are good for me. A couple habits that consumers have that maybe you have, maybe I have, that we can quit. And a couple habits that creators have that maybe you and I can do a little bit more of. So in the first place, consumers think that life happens to them and they just passively accept that. They really think that they have no power to create their own life, and that's the trap. That's not true. We have in our mind, we have the power to create the life that we want. And so watching TV is what consumers do. They doom scroll. They spend all of their money. They might not even go outside. And they don't do things that are well for them. And so as a creator, a couple habits that I started doing that are really giving me such a better life is the first thing in the morning, I make my bed. I know it's such a tiny thing, but it's habits that I feel like can really uplift ourselves. But those are really small habits that I feel like have such a big impact on our lives. And so I just make my bed in the morning. I started getting up earlier. I set goals. I set goals for the year, for the month, for the week, for the day. I actually have a list of the next 1.5 weeks where I know what time I have to work, and then the rest of the time I know exactly what I have to do. That brings me towards my goals. Another thing is, if you want to have a healthy life, if you want to, stay fit, you maybe want to start going running, maybe go to the gym. Maybe I'm not a gym person, but I go for hikes, I go for walks, and I try to eat healthy. Another thing is, as a creator, I started believing that I'm responsible for everything. I took responsibility for my entire life, for where I'm at. If I'm broke, that's on me. That's on me. That's nobody else's fault, and nobody's coming to save me. So I decided to make changes and to start creating. This just really is such a different way of seeing life, and I feel like there's only two people in this world. There are consumers that let life happen to them and accept the way everything is. And then there's creators that stop and think about what they want. Then they start creating that. And they manage their time differently. And they don't just walk through life and not consciously create it. And so this is just a little part of how I see the world. And I hope this inspired you to start creating your own life and maybe stop scrolling. Maybe stop eating unhealthy. Maybe leave friendships that are not good for you. That's also a thing that I did last year. I had a really good friend for 5 years, and I realized that we think very differently, and that this friendship is really much more distracting me of creating the life that I want than it's actually supporting and helping me. And that's hard. That's hard, but it doesn't matter where you are, where you're standing, you can create a life that you want, and it's possible. And I'm just here to tell you that. And I would be very happy if you would comment what's really important for you, what's one goal that you have set yourself to achieve this year, this month, that you want to start creating. And so yeah, that's it. Anyways, if you want to watch more of my videos because they're really cool and I talk about frugality and saving money, I would be happy to welcome you to my community. Ta-da! Bye!